So first case for this today's clinical grand round is familial pheochromocytoma associated with multiple endocrine neoplasia type 2B. So this is a 12 years old boy who presented to us with history of growth retardation and weight gain since 3 years, difficulty in getting up and recurrent skin infections since 1 year, and hypertension since 4 months. So this is his family chart, family history chart. He did not have any significant family history. So, coming to examination, his height was 119 centimeter, which was less than 5th centile for his age, and weight was 32 kg, which was 50th centile for his age, and blood pressure was 140 by 90 millimeter of mercury, and it was more than 95th centile for his age. Bone age was 7 years, and he had multiple mucosal neuromas. As we can see, there are multiple small neuromas over his tongue, and he had bumpy limbs, which are very characteristics of ME and 2B. These are called as blubbery lips, and he had prominent pinnae, round face, buffalo hump, and mild purple striae over abdomen. And on examination of neck, he had multiple firm to hard nodules palpable in both lobes of thyroid, and also on left level 2 and 3 lymph nodes were present. And abdominal examination did not reveal any mass or organomegaly. He had only skin infections over abdomen, tinea carboris and cruris. So, considering clinical presentation of a syndromic association of neuromas and hypertension, we further ordered ophthalmological evaluation. So his visual acuity was normal, 6/6 bilateral, but on slit lamp examination he had prominent corneal nerves. As we can see in this slit lamp examination photograph, the corneal nerves are very prominent and they are radiating from the pupil. And rest of the eye examination was normal as is expected. So then we admitted this patient and proceeded with evaluation. First, hormonal workup was done with overnight dexamethasone suppression test, which was non-suppressible, 568 nanomole per liter, and his 8 am ACTH was normal, 12 picomole per liter, and his 24-hour urinary metanephrine was 696 microgram, and 24-hour urinary normetanephrine was 820 microgram. But considering his age and creatinine clearance, the normal value for his age is less than 160 for urinary metanephrines and less than 286 for normetanephrines. So considering this normal value, his both metanephrine and normetanephrines were more than 3 times elevated, hence confirming the biochemical diagnosis of pheochromocytoma. And 24-hour urinary creatinine was 0.15 milligram, and serum calcitonin was more than 2000 picogram per ml. Serum CEA was 530 microgram per liter. High resolution ultrasonography examination of neck was done, and it showed multiple heterogeneous nodules in both lobes of thyroid, replacing normal parenchyma, bilateral cervical lymphadenopathy, and largest 1.8 centimeter. Indirect laryngoscopy was done, and it revealed left vocal cord palsy and a polypoidal growth at arytenoid. So FNAC was done, which was consistent with medullary thyroid carcinoma. So this is then we ordered contrast enhanced CT of neck and thorax for this patient, and as we can see in this CT film, both the thyroid lobes of enlarged with heterogeneous enhancing nodules and in both lobes, and there are multiple cervical lymph nodes, and this mass is closely abutting the trachea, but there is no clear infiltration of tracheal wall, and there is no vascular invasion, and only mild retroesternal extension is present. And high resolution CT of neck revealed multiple parenchymal nodular opacities in bilateral lungs, suggestive of lung metastasis. Since this patient had left vocal cord palsy and lesion on indirect laryngoscopy, direct bronchoscopy, laryngobronchoscopy was done to rule out any intraluminal infiltration. This is the video of this patient, and we can see there is nodular lesion on in larynx, laryngeal mucosa, and consistent with ganglioneuromas. So these are classically present in MEN2B. So further a contrast enhanced CT abdomen with adrenal protocol was done, and bilateral adrenal glands were bulky, although there was no well-defined nodular lesion in bilateral adrenal glands. But the biochemical evaluation was consistent with pheochromocytoma. So with this, a diagnosis of multiple endocrine neoplasia type 2B was made with metastatic medullary thyroid cancer, bilateral pheochromocytoma, and ectopic Cushing syndrome. So our plan was first to do surgery for pheochromocytoma, followed by surgery for medullary thyroid carcinoma, and he was started on alpha blockade with 1 milligram per day, and it was increased to 6 milligram per day over 2 weeks period. And then he was taken up for surgery, bilateral open transperitoneal adrenalectomy, and right adrenal was bulky, 8.5 gram, size was 5 into 4 into 2 centimeter, and left adrenal was 8 gram. Intraoperatively, his maximum blood pressure recorded was 170 by 100 millimeter of mercury, and otherwise there was no any other significant intra-op event. And post-operatively, patient developed intestinal pseudo-obstruction on post-operative day 3. He had abdominal distension, decreased frequency of passage of stool and flatus. His electrolytes were normal, so this was managed conservatively with anal dilatation twice daily and manual evacuation of feces for 2 days, followed by enema twice for 2 days, and his symptoms subsided. So subsequently, after 2 weeks, he was taken up for surgery for medullary thyroid carcinoma, and intraoperatively left lobe was infiltrating the left lateral wall of trachea, esophagus, and left recurrent laryngeal nerve, and hence this could not be dissected out totally. Right side right recurrent laryngeal nerve was preserved, and both parathyroids were identified but were devascularized during surgery, hence they were auto-transplanted. Since this patient had extensive lung metastasis, then that's why we did not go ahead with tracheal resection or any extensive resection. Only a subtotal thyroidectomy with central compartment lymph node dissection and bilateral SLND was done. So coming to histopathological report for this patient, the bilateral adrenalectomy did not reveal any well-defined lesion, but they were consistent with bilateral diffuse adrenocortical hyperplasia. and specimen from subtotal thyroidectomy with CCLND revealed medullary thyroid carcinoma with nodal metastasis. 24 out of 28 lymph nodes were positive. So this is the histopathological report. As we can see, the individual tumor cells are round to oval in appearance, and they have stippled chromatin within them, and with moderate amount of eosinophilic cytoplasm. And tumor was infiltrating the capsule and infiltrating the strap muscles. Immunohistochemistry was done, and for thyroid it was positive for calcitonin and ACTH, and immunohistochemistry of adrenal was negative for ACTH. Hence the source of ectopic Cushing was MTC itself, which is reported in literature. And genetic testing for red proto-oncogene for MEN2 was done, and it was positive for P918 mutation in exon 16 of red proto-oncogene. Post-operatively, patient had transient hypocalcemia. He required prolonged ventilation, then tracheostomy, which was decannulated after 2 weeks. He recovered, but again after discharge he presented to us with dyspnea and stridor, and emergency tracheostomy was done, and he survived. And for past 2 years he is on follow-up, and he is on supplements, prednisolone, fludrocort, Thyronorm, and he is on permanent tracheostomy. So follow-up urinary metanephrines and normetanephrines are urinary metanephrine has come within normal limit. His normetanephrine is slightly elevated only, and then a follow-up gallium-68 Dotanoc PET CT was done, and it revealed a SSTR somatostatin receptor expressing ill-defined mass lesion in left thyroid bed and extensive bilateral pulmonary nodules. So we have planned for family screening, and we are discussing the options of tyrosine kinase inhibitors versus best supportive care, because this patient has financial constraints. So he could not afford tyrosine kinase inhibitor. So since 1.5 years he is on follow-up only, and he is surviving. So this is regarding case. If any questions, anyone connected? Okay, so I will proceed with review of literature.
For that, you can explain about gap between the first surgery and second surgery.
Sir, approximately 2 weeks. First adrenalectomy was done, and after 2 weeks thyroidectomy was done.
You checked the metanephrine before proceeding to the thyroid surgery?
Sir, we collected his urine samples, but we did not wait for the report.
So you just believe on the clinical?
Yes, sir.
Blood tests are and every homeostasis is stable, then only?
Yes, sir. So yesterday we discussed extensively regarding multiple endocrine neoplasia type 2A. So today I will be focusing mainly on multiple endocrine neoplasia type 2B. So as we know, this MEN2 is an autosomal dominant disorder, and basically it is classified into two distinct syndromes, 2A and 2B. MEN2B is only 6% of all MEN2 cases. So, and it is associated with medullary thyroid carcinoma, pheochromocytoma, But parathyroid syndrome is very rare in MEN2B. Apart from these two endocrine organ involvement, there are multiple mucosal neuromas in MEN2B, marfanoid phenotype, and intestinal ganglioneuromas. So, due to it has very high penetrance, and the genetic defect in these disorders involve RET proto-oncogene, which is located on chromosome number 10. So, MEN2B is characterized by early development of an aggressive forms of MTC in virtually all affected individuals, that is 100% penetrance. And before intervention with early prophylactic thyroidectomy, the average age of death in individuals with MEN2B was 21 years. Pheochromocytomas occur in approximately 50% of the individuals, and out of this, approximately half are multiple and often bilateral. And approximately 40% of affected individuals have diffuse ganglioneuromatosis of GIT, which is associated with symptoms including abdominal distension, megacolon, constipation, or diarrhea. And approximately 75% of affected individuals have a marfanoid habitus. So, the feature of MTC in MEN2B is multifocal and bilateral, and genetic defect is germline missense mutation in tyrosine kinase domain of RET. In MEN2B, there is missense mutation of extracellular cysteine codon. Here it is intracellular tyrosine kinase domain which gets mutated. So, despite its distinctive clinical appearance and associated GIT difficulties, this disease is often not detected until the patient develops a neck mass, and usually presents with metastasis. And metastatic spread is usually to the lung and bone, and calcitonin levels often remain elevated post-operatively. So, coming to briefly describing the genetics, the RET gene is located on chromosome 10. It has got 21 exons, and Takahashi was first who identified RET gene in 1985. And this RET gene, RET proto-oncogene, encodes a plasma membrane bound tyrosine kinase enzyme which is called as RET receptor. This is the schematic diagram of RET receptor gene. It has got an extracellular domain, a transmembrane domain, and tyrosine kinase domain. So, the MEN2B is associated with mutation in tyrosine kinase domain. There is a distinct genotype-phenotype correlation in MEN2 syndrome, which we discussed yesterday, and this MEN2B falls under the highest category risk for in ATA guidelines, and it is associated with codon 918 mutation. So, coming to diagnosis, clinical diagnosis of MEN2B usually should be suspected in a patient who presents with mucosal neuromas of the lips and tongue, or if he has undergone any ophthalmic evaluation, then modulated corneal nerve fibers might be reported, and there is distinctive faces with enlarged lips and asthenic marfanoid body habitus, and sometimes it is associated with MTC. So, biochemical and imaging studies is recommended for evaluation for pheochromocytoma. A 24-hour urinary metanephrine, normetanephrine, or plasma-free metanephrine should be done. And MTC for MTC or C-cell hyperplasia, calcitonin marker should be done. And patients with high clinical suspicion of genetic syndrome should be referred for molecular genetic testing. And if there are high clinical index of suspicion, mutational analysis for exons 16 and 15 to detect 918 or 883 mutations should be completed first. And if this is negative, then testing for 804 exon in 14 should be done. And again, if it is also negative, then sequencing for entire red coding region is recommended. Although classically it is associated with 918 codon mutation, but isolated 804 codon mutation is associated with familial MTC. But now there are reports of 804 co-occurring with a second ret variant, and this results in MEN2B as compared to FMTC. And this strategy will detect more than 98% of mutations in individuals with MEN2B. So as I said, this falls under ATA highest risk level, and a prophylactic thyroidectomy is recommended, and that is the best chance to have normocalcitonemia in these patients. And age to begin screening is recommended at 8 years. Disease management, pheochromocytoma, which is detected by biochemical testing or radionuclide imaging, should be operated first. And a standard treatment for MTC is surgical removal of the thyroid along with regional lymph node. For prevention of primary manifestations, a prophylactic thyroidectomy is safe for all age groups, and it should be performed as soon as within 6 months of birth. And if patient is not opting, if parents are not opting for surgery, then an annual serum calcitonin screening should begin for these children starting at the age of 6 months. However, caution should be used in interpreting calcitonin results for children who are younger than 3 years. And for prevention of secondary manifestations before any surgery, presence of a functioning pheochromocytoma should be excluded by appropriate biochemical screening in any individual with MTC, MEN2A or MEN2B. And if pheochromocytoma is detected, adrenalectomy should be performed before any surgery to avoid intraoperative catecholamine crisis. Thank you.